So we gathered together today to celebrate a life. Raymond Kraus was taken from us, but he lived an incredible 96 years. 96 years. Truly amazing. And he had a very blessed life with so much love, with his family, with his children, with his grandchildren, with friends, with so many people who loved him. We're here, though we are sad, because there's never enough time with our loved ones. Today we celebrate the incredible man and the incredible 96 years that he had on this earth. Death has taken our beloved Ray. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentations. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in the sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, be with them. For Ray's life that united us in love, which death cannot sever. For his companionship that we share along life's path, which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind brought us joy and happiness, is now a precious remembrance. For all these things and more we give thanks to God. In our time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us ever more messages of God's near us. It tells us the kinship of the Creator, and light as in darkness, and joy as in sorrow, is life in life as in death. He is someone who will be remembered for so many amazing qualities, and he will be missed. And the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. And the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember them. And the opening of buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember them. And the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for now they are a part of us, as we remember them. How can we know death? We who cannot understand life. We study the seeds of the cell, but the deep power within them will always elude us. Though we cannot understand, we accept life as a gift from God. Yet death is life's twin. We face it with fear. But why be afraid? Death is a haven to the weary, a relief for the sorely afflicted. We are safe in death as in life. There is no pain in death. There is only the pain of the living as we recalled our shared love, as they themselves die to fear to die. Calm us, O God, when we cry out in fear and our grief. Turn us anew towards life. Awaken us to the warmth of human love that speaks to us of you. We shall fear no evil, for we affirm your kingdom of life. Esai enai el he harim, me'ayin yavo esrim. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither sleeps nor slumbers. God is your guardian. God is your protection, your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul in your comings and your goings, now and forever. Please join me, if you wish, in Psalms 23. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my enemy. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. A poet has written, After my death mourn me thus. There was a man, and see, he is no more. Before his time, his life was ended. the song of his life was broken. Oh, he had one more melody, and now the melody is lost forever, lost forever. Today we are here to honor Raymond Kraus. Raymond died at the age of 96. And I did not have the chance to get to meet him because he has been living in South Carolina for the past many years. But in spending time with his beloved son, Bud, his daughter-in-law, Arlene, and his daughter, Hillary, I feel like I have gotten a sense of who he is. When we started our conversation yesterday, Hillary asked me all about myself. She said that's exactly what her dad would have done, that he wanted to get to know all the people around him in his quiet and dignified way. And when I asked Bud and Arlene and Hillary if there are any readings that they wanted included in today's funeral, they said Ecclesiastes 3. It will be read aloud later in this funeral, but I will use part of it today because I think it fits so well with everything I know about who Raymond was. For everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die. Raymond was 96 years old when he died a few days ago. And it is amazing to think about all the things that he would have seen in those 96 years. A time to be born, and for Raymond, that was on February 1st, 1921. He was the son of Ida and Harry Kraus. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to laugh. So when asking about Raymond or Ray or Daddy or Big Daddy, I have learned that laughter was a huge part of his life, that he had a very witty sense of humor. Bud said that his dad was the funniest person that he ever met, that his sense of humor was mentioned several times, and it was one of the things that made Ray, Ray. Bud said that as a child, he did not think his dad was funny at all, that he did not have the kind of sense of humor that was funny for children. Instead, it was a rich, witty, and very dry sense of humor that all who knew him will dearly miss. A time to keep silent and a time to speak. Raymond was a nice and gentle soul. He was not the life of a party. He did not need to be the center of attention. Instead, he had a quiet voice and a gentle demeanor. He was soft-spoken, kind, and a true gentleman. I was told that Raymond made friends wherever he went, that he was always a gentleman and always polite to the people around him, even when he did not like them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. I am told that he was very handsome and even a bit of a ladies' man. But that his wife Sharon, his wife of 55 years, was the true love of his life. That after she had passed away, he was not interested in marrying again because she was his love. And although he was 5 years older, Raymond and Sharon met because they lived on the same street. Sharon had a yellow convertible that Raymond liked. And throughout his life, Raymond loved cars and even got a new one every 3 years or so. But more important than his love of cars was his love of his wife, Sharon. They were married and spent 55 years together. Raymond and Sharon liked to golf, they liked to travel. And when Sharon taught her cooking classes, Ray served as her sous chef. They loved each other dearly, and they were role models of a happy marriage. When speaking about their parents, Bud and Hillary mentioned that their love for each other made them role models, that they enjoyed this long and happy marriage, and that family was always important to them. Raymond was close with his brothers and all of his cousins, that Arlene connected with Ray from the very beginning and quickly learned to love him too. Ray loved her as well and dearly loved his grandchildren, Gabe and Bree. He so much wanted to attend Gabe's upcoming wedding to Rachel, but knew that this just wasn't going to be possible. Family was always important to them, and in many ways they were the center of the family. They loved their family, and the family loved them. A time to keep silent and a time to speak. I was told that Raymond was a very liberal thinker, that he had many, many political opinions, that he lived through 18 presidents, a few of whom he actually liked. Apparently, Jimmy Carter was the one who made the cut, and that Raymond actually even got to meet him. And to dive more into politics, Ray liked to watch Wolf Blitzer on TV. He also enjoyed watching golf and other sporting events. And I was told that World Series tickets were a part of an early date between Raymond and Sharon. A time to tear down and a time to build up. Raymond also liked to build things. He liked to make things with his hands. This might have stemmed from his training as a mechanical engineer, and although he did not talk about it often, he served in the Navy in World War II. A time to tear and a time to sow. Although Raymond might not have been a religious person, he remained his membership at Fairmont Temple. While he was living in Cleveland, he had a deep connection with Rabbi Lelyveld. He connected with Lelyveld's intellect, his sermons, and his pursuit of social justice. When he moved to Hilton Head, he became one of the founders of the congregation there, but he still kept up his membership with Fairmont Temple. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. One of the people that he loved to embrace was his mother. He was a devoted son to his mother and visited her every weekend. He was very respectful of the people around him. For everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. I'm told that Raymond wasn't a worrier. He thought whatever was going to happen was going to happen. And even when he had vision and hearing loss, he still didn't complain. And throughout his subtle decline, he was also always grateful for those around him and for the incredible care that he received. He was a joy to be with. He will be missed for his sense of humor, for his mocking politicians, and for his many deep conversations. There's a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die. He was a joy to be around. He had a blessed life, and he will be missed. I now invite up Gabe to share some words with us.
Well, the poem that we were going to say was just read, which is okay. Me and my sister both prepared speeches. Mine's on my phone. I had a chance to print it out, so please bear with me. I want to thank everyone for coming today to remember my grandfather, Raymond Kraus, or as we like to call it, as we called him Big Daddy. It's a Southern thing. I don't understand it. Our family has a lot of great memories spending time with Grandy and Big Daddy, especially during Thanksgiving. I think each of us shared a particular passion with each of them. My dad with golf, my mother with cooking, and Bree enjoyed eating the results of that cooking. What I shared with Big Daddy was less of a hobby, but more of a career. Some of you know Big Daddy was a mechanical engineer who graduated here in Cleveland at Case Western. On choosing what engineering school to attend, I believe my deciding factor for picking Case Western was the fact that it was my grandfather's alma mater. I will always remember how proud he was that I graduated from the school he attended. It's only fitting that the other memory I want to highlight picks up from here. Last September, at the heart of Case Western campus, I proposed to love of my life, Rachel. Big Daddy was thrilled to hear that she said yes, and that his grandson would be getting married in his lifetime. When we called him and asked him, he asked, "When you getting married?" And didn't stop asking every time we or my father spoke to him. About a month or two later, we got the somber news that he was declining in health, and that reality was fading. As we approach our wedding day, we will look back on all the fond memories we have with Big Daddy. Our most favorite would be the vacation Rachel and I took to South Carolina for her to meet Big Daddy for the first time. He thought she was amazing from the start. and as time went on, he wanted to see her more than me. He'll be missed, but in our minds at the wedding, and I'm grateful we got to spend this much time with him, and he got to meet Rachel. And he will always be in our memories, and we love him very much, and thank you all for being here today.
God, okay. Hi. Mine's also on my phone. Okay. We'll see if I can get through this. All right. So, okay, yeah. So some of you know, some of you don't know, but Sharon and Ray Kraus were not, I can't do this. Okay. They were not, can you read this for me? Okay. They were not Grandma and Grandpa. They were Grandy and Big Daddy. I can't do this. Okay. Can I just put this up on the screen? Okay. For the majority of my life, I've only had one grandfather, and I'm so thankful for my time spent with Big Daddy. When I was 6, I flew by myself down to Hilton Head for 2 weeks. We went to the water parks, we cooked, we rode a horse, and Big Daddy drove me to my tennis lessons. Yeah, I remember going down every year for Thanksgiving and Big Daddy making the best turkey that my dad now makes every year. Okay. While not a man of many words on the phone, Big Daddy never failed to mention every time we spoke how proud he was of me. Every time we said goodbye, every time we said goodbye, we went back and forth saying, I love you, no, I love you more, no, I love you most. Literally every time we spoke. I think we can all learn from Big Daddy. If you want to live to 96, just eat all the chocolate you want, order the whole rack of ribs, walk to the beach every day, and never lose your sense of humor. Oh, and thanks for coming today. It means a lot. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Raymond Kraus. I'm the lucky niece. As I started packing, hey, Uncle Ray, you listening? Realizing I wasn't going to Hilton Head. Cleveland's weather is a little different. Remembering our talk last week, like so many talks, where words shared held warmth and love beyond their syllables, or the time it took to speak them, always matching our humor, bad jokes, political jokes. I honor your checking out amidst the chaos in the Capitol right now. You were my favorite uncle even before I was born. You tried to call me Sissy. You reminded me of Perry Como, Steve Reeves, Chris Matthews, any smart, talented, and handsome man. The happy moments of my kidhood were mostly with you. Mount Overlook, our blended two family. You had no idea how deeply much you were my hero. Handsome in your uniform, I looked at your picture often, my talisman of safe harbor, destined to remain an anchor of unconditional love. And now, this time, releasing so many fine and excellent years, leaving those who love you richer, wiser, sillier, coupled again with your Sharon, a good life, full enough, almost long enough, ad 120 shana, or, as Ida would say, bis 120. You have, and we say thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming very much. As you know, my father has not lived in Cleveland for 40 years, and he was the last of his family. So a lot of this is extended family for my brother and me, who also haven't lived here for a long time, but I much appreciated it, the whole family over there. My father was a person I turned to for advice, my best friend, my sounding board, my entertainer, my everything. And if you heard me saying this right now, his response would be, "That's all?" When my mom died 11 years ago, Dad was 85 and promised me 10 years. He gave us 11 in 2 months. I knew every single day was a gift. And I can't remember any day that I didn't tell him in some form that I loved him. When I mentioned, when my mother died, I mentioned, "Dad, there's going to be a lot of women after you. They'll want to be close friends now." My dad's response was, they can try all they want. Your mother was my one love. That's not to say that he didn't make dozens of close women friends where he lives. He'd always greet the ladies by saying, "Hello, beautiful," or "Hello, gorgeous." Little do they know he'd greet them that way because he had such horrible eyesight. He couldn't figure out who was one from another. They all looked the same to him. So plus it was a lot easier. As many of you know, I lived with my dad. When my profession in newspaper journalism began cutting jobs, I made some career changes and I temporarily moved in with him. That was about 6 years ago. But when I was in Hilton Head, a lot of people come up to me over the years and say, "Oh, that's so nice that you're taking care of your father." And my only response to that was, "Well, actually, he's taking care of me." We became great companions. We traveled together to family weddings and bat mitzvahs. And I always made him buy a new shirt or an outfit when we went to these occasions. Or I would buy him a new shirt or an outfit because I'd say, "It's for Mom. She'd cringe if you wore what you wanted to wear." His biggest joy, which has been discussed today, did come 6 years ago when he attended Gabe's college graduation at Case. Gabe graduated with a degree in biomedical engineering, and he was very proud. And my dad had a degree in mechanical engineering. And I can honestly say he wasn't a bragger, and he didn't talk that much about a lot of his grandkids every day, but that was his proudest moment. Sadly, he instinctively knew that he wasn't going to be able to celebrate Gabe and Rachel's wedding this October. But my dad will undoubtedly be remembered for his fantastic sense of humor. Nothing crude. He never made crude jokes. He never swore. He wasn't lowbrow bathroom humor. It was quick-witted, I like to think sophisticated one-line humor. Over the past few years, I've been posting things my 95, 96, whatever-year-old father says on Facebook to many great likes. But he's been saying funny things long before social media came around. And I've been taking notes long before I've been posting. So on this sad day, let's remember some of the funny things that he said to make so many of us in this room laugh. So here we go. Commenting on when my mother and him used to check into a hotel, he would tell the front desk, "Show my wife the second room first." Also did that at restaurants. Show her the second table first. He would tell me that vitamins are good for the vitamin companies. He always kept his snacks in his oven. So the potato chips and the Doritos, Cheetos, and what have you. So one time I was putting the snacks in there, and I said, "Dad, there's too many snacks in here." He said, "Then get a bigger oven." On doctors, always on doctors. I never understood why he paid the bills little at a time. I said, just pay the bill so you don't keep getting. He said, they make me wait, so I'm making them wait. If you'd ask him the name of his doctor, he'd say 911. That's because when you call a doctor, the voice says, call 911. On government, we have just too many to mention, but when we were watching one of the many investigations on TV, he said maybe they should investigate the investigators. Last year when this Brexit thing happened in July, and Hillary came on the TV and she said, in one day, Americans lost $100 billion in their 401ks. My father quickly said, I didn't know she could add that fast. Too many on Trump, but I'll just give you one. On Facebook, he said Trump's two favorite words are disaster and disgrace. At least he knows how to describe himself. One time we were watching the Weather Channel, and there was a big snowstorm in Boston. So my dad the things just came out of him, said, let's see if they're Boston strong now. And on the couple conversations, Dad, you got food all over your clothes. That's good. It means I've been eating. And we asked with the Joe Paterno thing, I said, Dad, you think Joe Paterno should step down? He said, step down? He could barely walk. And I also, when watching Joe Paterno in Penn State scandal, he said, these guys are so despicable, they could be politicians. He would sit out on his balcony for hours and hours, and I'd come home, and the screen door, the whole thing was wide open. So I'd say, don't leave the screen door open. I don't want to come home. I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and have one of those little lizards sitting on my forehead. His response, then don't wake up in the middle of the night. A couple of months ago, it was time to get some teeth pulled. In fact, one of the ladies where he lives told me that he said, my daughter said I need to get fake teeth, so at Gabe and Rachel's wedding, I'll have teeth. Well, I got the teeth pulled, and we lying on the couch in the afternoon. Dad, how do your teeth feel? What teeth? Let's see. Unfortunately, where he lives now, people pass. In fact, there was a table there with a memory, and he says, you don't want to end up on that table. Yeah, that's so we were walking down this hallway, and the woman across had passed a while ago, and they were still delivering the paper. So my dad said, someone should tell them she can't read anymore. When the Diet Coke and the Alzheimer's thing were connected, possibly, he liked to drink Diet Coke. I said, how many Diet Cokes do you drink a day? Of course, his answer was, I forget. And I noticed he was taking two pills for blood pressure. I asked him, why two? One for high, one for low. But he also paid very close attention to phrases that he heard on TV. He watched a lot of TV, sports, politics, And there was always, and remember when at the end of the day, they all started saying at the end of the day. So he introduced that into his vocabulary. Everything was at the end of the day. But the one he really liked was, instead of saying goodbye, was have a good one. Have a good one. So every day I left, he would, bye, Dad, have a good one. Well, I'd like to say back to you, Dad, I had a good one. Thank you.
I have a few things to say, but Arlene's going to actually read them, because if I read them, we'd be here all day. And I just was thinking, I never thought my father would die, but he did. So, Arlene, take it away.
Dear family and friends, today we say goodbye not just to the best man at my wedding, but to the best man. He was that for 5 grooms. Imagine that. Raymond Kraus showed us how to be a person of great character. If there was anything he stood for, it was to always do the right thing. My dad was a very fortunate man who led a blessed life. Just a few years after the close of World War I, on February 1st, 1926, he was born to Ida and Harry Kraus in their home on East 117th, near Union. He'd want us to reflect upon what he experienced over his 96 years. The span of his life saw him touch handmade objects from the Civil War era to handheld devices made 150 years later. Remarkable. He lived to see 18 United States presidents. I can tell you he didn't care much for a few of them. As you may know and have heard, politics to him was a high form of entertainment. He saw all 50 states of a country he deeply loved. My father was a proud member of the greatest generation. He was not shy about telling you that. Like most of his generation, he did not talk much about his time at war, nor was deep self-reflection something he easily shared. One of the best things that ever happened to Dad, I will get to Mom in a few minutes, was that he received, against the odds, a Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering at the Case School of Applied Science. He would spend most of his career at Lester Industries in Bedford. How lucky he was to work in the industry of his time, the automotive industry. My dad took so much pride working at Lester, he kept a picture nearby, as he would say, of his guys, the top executives of the firm, each wearing white tuxedos like the Rat Pack. He would outlive all of them. His industrial skills were not something he only took to work. Dad was highly inventive and created many objects, like a child rocking horse, which we still have in our house, a kid's pickup truck,
We have that too.
and wooden trays. We have that too, all of which are now family heirlooms. But his recreational skills did not stop there. You may know that Dad was a golf aficionado, playing many well-known courses. If he couldn't play it, he'd watch it on TV, always rooting for the lefties. When he wasn't working or golfing, you'd find him in the yard, usually in the garden or on the front lawn, planting pachysandra until it replaced every blade of grass. As for my mother, Sharon, does anyone doubt what a loving relationship they had during their 55 years? Did they ever have disagreements or quarrels? Not really. Mom would say something and eventually he'd agree. I think the biggest
Let them laugh.
I think the biggest issues would arise about his choice of what to wear, but that was it. They were role models for me and many others in the family. When there were disagreements, they worked them out. I always thought of my dad as a Buckeye, so it is fitting that he come back home now for the last time. But he spent the last 33 years of his life in Hilton Head, South Carolina, 22 of them with my mother. They had a marvelous, carefree life in retirement. In fact, while my dad loved his work, he retired at 62 and never worked a day since. My father was the funniest man I'll ever know. Maybe some of you know, too. He certainly was not a kid's father. His sense of humor was far too sophisticated for young ears. Only when I came of age was I to realize my mother was right when she says, "Your dad is a very funny man." Through the years, I'd call him to share a laugh and got much delight when I could make him laugh, which he did quite easily in his later years. He became a Facebook hit thanks to my sister Hillary, who frequently posted things my 96-year-old father says. No one can replace that humor now that he is gone. I will miss that, and your sweetness most of all, dear. I'm in this next paragraph, so it's hard. This is true. One example of that sweetness
was when he met Arlene for the first time in a New York City hotel. He heard that I was in love with her, but I didn't know what to expect upon their first meeting. They both sat at the edge of the hotel bed, and he put his arm around her and simply said, "Welcome to the family." That statement said it all. They had a marvelous relationship that I will forever remember. He loved his 2 grandchildren, Gabriel and Bree. While they were not physically with him most of their lives, I know what happiness they brought to their big daddy. When I'd relay what they were up to and what wonderful people he knew they had become, we both took much pleasure. Several years ago, as if to say, "Please mention this one day," my father told me of 3 people he deeply admired. First, Rabbi Arthur Lelyveld, spiritual leader of Temple Anshe Chesed, who took he and my mother to Israel in the spring of 1970. Then there was May Price, his secretary, who mentored him the business skills he would need to have a successful career. Finally, there was Irene, who was our housekeeper for many years on Belgrave Road in Pepper Pike. She followed her dreams of living in Hawaii one day. He loved that idea. And if he were to add a 4th one, it would have been Hillary, who watched over him in good times and in very difficult ones, like these past days and weeks. How fortunate we all were to have had him in our lives for so long. He adored brothers. Sonald, William, and Albert were his idols, who he loved deeply throughout his life. But his love of family did not stop there. My dad was the last of 21 most cousins from New York and beyond. The miracle of my father's life is now complete. We are forever in his debt as a teacher of how to be a good person. As long as Hillary and I and everyone here today are alive, your memory will be a blessing, and your goodness will live on. Just like the way you liked your steak and how you lived your life, we can now say, "Well done." Sure. I just want to add a few words, and I didn't write mine down, but I thought a lot, in our drive here yesterday, and we've all heard about Ray's his character, how loving he was, his sense of humor. And what I remember, and I said this to the rabbi yesterday, over all the years, whenever we'd come down to visit to Hilton Head, and I remember countless walks on the beach, and Bud and Gabe and Bree and Sissy, they'd be walking ahead, and he was so loving to me and so grateful for me coming into the family's life. And he would tell me that so many times. And he would always take such an interest in me and in my life, not just as it pertained to the family, but my professional career. And we would have these amazing conversations about business. But he would always make me feel just so loved in this family. I never felt like a daughter-in-law. I felt like a daughter. And he would just show that gratitude that I came into all their lives. And that's really special. I don't think all daughter-in-laws feel that when they come into a family. And I'll always remember him for that.
Such beautiful tributes to truly a wonderful man. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not in some far high off place along the way, but having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to everlasting life. God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life and the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way. But you are the living foundation from which our healing flows. To you, the stricken look for comfort, the sorrow-laden look for consolation. O God, we see in life as though windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures, as you, O God, endure forever. We say that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is a dwelling place of your love and glory. Please rise. El Melech Rachamim. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Raymond Kraus, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, the shadow of your wings. Let his soul be bound up in a bond of everlasting love. God, his inheritance, may he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.